Deep in the heart of the Whispering Woods, where the ancient trees touched the velvet sky, lay a village unlike any other. It wasn't built of stone or timber, but woven from moonbeams and stardust, held together by the gentle hum of magic. This was Aethelburg, the cradle of lights, and here lived a girl named Elara. Elara was small for her 10 years, with eyes the color of a twilight sky just after the last star had pricked through, and hair like spun moonlight that shimmered even in the softest glow. Her skin carried the faint luminescence of those born and raised under the perpetual twilight of Aethelburg. For in this special place the sun never quite reached the forest floor. Instead, Aethelburg was lit by the captured essence of the night sky, a living tapestry of soft, shifting light. The houses in Aethelburg were not structures in the way others knew them. They were magnificent, organic creations, grown from ancient, living lightwood trees whose branches intertwined and swelled into cozy chambers. Their walls were made of a shimmering semi-transparent membrane, spun by glow silkworms, through which the village's unique radiance filtered, casting ever-changing patterns of amethyst, pearl, and softest rose. Mosses that pulsed with a gentle inner light carpeted the floors, and furniture was carved from petrified starlight, cool and smooth to the touch. At the very heart of Aethelburg stood the ether well, a colossal, crystalline structure that hummed with a deep, resonant song. It was the village's lifeblood, drawing in the scattered starlight and moonbeams from beyond the canopy, refining them, and then gently releasing them as the warm, vital glow that sustained all life in Aethelburg. Around the ether well, the air always smelled of night-blooming jasmine and the clean, crisp scent of distant stars. Elara's earliest memories were of the ether well. Her mother, Lyra, was one of the ether weavers, the revered guardians and tenders of the well. Lyra's hands, nimble and wise, could coax the most vibrant hues from the well's core, mending faltering light streams and ensuring the village never faded. Elara often sat beside her mother, watching, learning the intricate dance of fingers over the well's crystalline surface, listening to the subtle shifts in its deep hum. Each flicker, each hum tells a story. "Little starseed," Lyra would whisper, her voice as soft as the rustle of moon moth wings. "The well remembers the dawn of Aethelburg, and it dreams of its future." Elara, with her innate curiosity, absorbed every word, every gesture. She learned that the ether well didn't just provide light, it also nourished the unique flora and fauna of the Whispering Woods. The lumina lilies, whose petals unfurled only at night to drink the well's essence. The whisper sprites, tiny, iridescent beings that zipped through the air, carrying messages on shimmering wings. And even the ancient, gentle glow bears, whose fur pulsed with a sleepy, comforting light. Her own small duties revolved around the periphery of the well's magic. She would gather fallen light dew from the petals of the lumina lilies, a potent elixir that could heal small cuts and soothe weary minds. She would help her mother polish the lesser light crystals that dotted the village pathways, ensuring no path was ever truly dark. And most importantly, she would listen. Elara had a peculiar gift. She could hear the star song within the light, a faint ethereal melody that only she seemed to discern. It was a harmony that changed with the celestial cycles, a lullaby woven by distant nebulae and passing comets. But lately, the star song had been troubled. It began subtly, a slight dissonance in the otherwise perfect chord. At first, Elara thought it was her imagination. A fleeting moment when the familiar hum of the ether well seemed to falter, like a breath held too long. Then she noticed small changes around the village. The lumina lilies, usually vibrant and full, seemed a shade paler, their glow less robust. The whisper sprites, usually a flurry of energetic light, moved a little slower, their iridescent trails dimmer. Even the glow bears seemed to spend more time slumbering, their comforting pulse of light a little fainter. Her mother Lyra was also working harder. Elara would see her at the ether well long after most of Aethelburg had settled into their light-spun dreams, her brow furrowed in concentration, her hands moving with a desperate urgency. When Elara asked, Lyra would simply smile, a tired, reassuring smile. "Just a little recalibration, little starseed. The celestial currents are shifting." But Elara knew it was more than that. The star song in her ears was growing quieter, its melody losing its vibrancy. It felt like a favorite lullaby, slowly fading into a whisper. One evening, as the two moons, Sylvan and Lumina, hung like twin pearls in the sky, casting their combined glow onto the ether well. Elara decided to speak up. "Mother," she began, tracing patterns on the mossy floor of their lightwood home. "Well, it feels different, doesn't it?" Lyra paused, her fingers stilled over a delicate light weaving she was repairing. She turned. Her eyes, usually bright with the well's glow, held a flicker of concern. "What do you mean, Elara?" "The song," Elara whispered. "It's not as full, and the colors, they're not as strong. Even the dew from the Lumina lilies tastes less potent." Lyra sighed, a soft, weary sound. She sat beside Elara, pulling her close. "You have always been sensitive to the well's heart, my dear. Yes, there are challenges. The distant star heart, the ancient nebula that feeds our ether well with its deepest light, seems to be dimming. Its pulses are weaker. We've tried to draw more from the twin moons, but their light is different, not as profound." Elara's heart sank. The star heart. It was the ancient, mythical source of Aethelburg's unique magic, a colossal cloud of cosmic dust and nascent stars that glowed with an eternal, gentle fire. Tales said it was the cradle of all starlight, a place where dreams were born. If the star heart was dimming, what hope was there for Aethelburg? "What can we do?" Elara asked, her voice barely a whisper. Lyra stroked her hair. "We continue to tend, to coax, to nurture. The elders are consulting the ancient texts, searching for remedies. But it is a deep-seated problem, Elara, one we have never faced before." Over the next few days, the dimming became more noticeable. The soft, pervasive glow of Aethelburg began to recede, leaving pockets of deeper shadow. The usual playful chatter of the whisper sprites quieted, replaced by an anxious fluttering. Even the typically stoic glowbears stirred uneasily in their dens. The star song in Elara's ears was now a faint, melancholic echo. Elara spent more time at the ether well, not helping her mother, but simply listening. She placed her small hands against the cool, crystalline surface, trying to feel the pulse of its magic, to understand its distress. She closed her eyes, letting the faint, struggling star song fill her mind. It was a fragmented melody, full of longing and a strange sense of being lost. One afternoon, as the twilight deepened into a heavy gloom, Elara heard something new within the star song. A faint, almost imperceptible call, distinct from the general sadness. It was like a single clear note trying to cut through a thick fog, a plea for help. It seemed to emanate not from the star heart but from somewhere closer, deeper within the whispering woods itself. She followed the sound, not consciously, but instinctively. Her feet led her away from the central plaza of Aethelburg, past the paling Lumina lilies, and towards the edge of the village, where the lightwood trees grew denser and the path less traveled. This was the direction of the old growth, a section of the whispering woods that few dared to enter. It was said to be where the oldest, most powerful magic resided, but also where the shadows were deepest, and the ancient spirits of the forest slumbered undisturbed. The air grew cooler here, and the light from Aethelburg struggled to penetrate the thick canopy. The luminous moss on the ground was sparser, and the trees here were not the friendly lightwood of the village, but ancient, gnarled giants, their bark like wrinkled faces, their branches draped with shadows that seemed to writhe with a life of their own. Elara shivered, but the strange, insistent note in the star song pulled her forward. It was a melody of forgotten wonder, a whisper of slumbering power. It felt like a promise and a warning. She pushed through a curtain of shimmering vine, its usual luminescence now only a faint, struggling gleam. On the other side, the path vanished entirely. Before her lay a landscape unlike anything she had ever seen. The trees were even older here, their trunks wider than her small home, their canopies so dense that only slivers of the twin moon's light pierced through, creating shifting patterns of silver and deep indigo on the forest floor. Here, the ground was not covered in moss, but in a carpet of ancient, decaying leaves that rustled like dry whispers with every step. Strange, luminous fungi, shaped like bells and spirals, glowed with a faint, otherworldly light, providing the only illumination in this deep part of the woods. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth, and something else, something ancient and profound. The star song, though still faint, was clearer here, pulling her deeper into the shadows. It now had a new element, a sense of anticipation. It led her to a clearing, a circular space where the ancient trees formed a silent, watchful ring. In the center of this clearing stood a sight that made Alara gasp, a sound swallowed by the deep quiet of the forest. It was another ether well, but unlike the one in Aethelburg. This one was colossal, many times larger than her village's heart. Its crystalline structure was not smooth and polished, but jagged and organic, like a vast petrified heart. It was covered in ancient runes, barely visible beneath a layer of dust and clinging vines that glowed with a faint, sickly green light. But what truly captivated Alara was its state. The Aether well in Aethelburg hummed with vitality, its core pulsing with a living light. This one was dormant. Dark. A vast silent monolith, absorbing the scant light around it, rather than radiating it. It felt cold, utterly devoid of the warmth and life she associated with the well. And yet, the star song was strongest here, emanating from the heart of this slumbering giant. It was a complex symphony of forgotten melodies, of ancient power yearning to awaken. It was not a song of distress, but of deep sleep, waiting to be stirred. As Alara cautiously approached the dormant well, her eyes scanned its surface. The runes, even under the grime, were intricate and beautiful, telling a story she could not yet read. Her fingers, guided by an unseen impulse, reached out and brushed against a smooth, dark surface near its base. It was a small, polished stone embedded within the crystal. It didn't glow. Instead, it seemed to drink the light, reflecting nothing. But as her fingers touched it, a faint tremor ran through the colossal well. The ground beneath her feet vibrated, a deep, resonating hum that she felt in her bones, rather than heard with her ears. The ancient trees around the clearing rustled, their shadows momentarily shifting, as if waking from a long slumber. And then, just as quickly, it stopped. The silence that followed was even deeper than before, punctuated only by the faint, distant hoot of an unseen owl. Alara stood frozen, her heart hammering against her ribs. What was this place? Why had the star song led her here? And what was this colossal, slumbering well? It felt ancient, powerful, and utterly forgotten. As she looked closer at the dark stone her fingers had touched, she saw faint etchings on its surface, almost invisible in the dim light. They were not runes but symbols, swirling patterns that seemed to depict a cosmic dance, a journey through starlight. And at the very center of these symbols, she saw a single familiar image, a tiny delicate lumia lily, its petals just beginning to unfurl. A seed of an idea began to bloom in Alara's mind, a fragile hope in the overwhelming darkness. This dormant well, this ancient place, could it be the key? Could it hold the answer to Aethelburg's fading light? The star song pulsed again, a clear, insistent note now, not of longing, but of deep, patient expectation. It was as if the well itself was waiting for her to understand. Alara knew she couldn't possibly wake such a giant alone. She also knew her mother and the elders had never spoken of another either well, let alone one of this magnitude. This was a secret, hidden deep within the whispering woods, waiting for someone to find it. With a deep breath, Alara turned her gaze back to the massive silent crystal, its surface reflecting the slivers of moonlight like 1,000 sleeping eyes. She had found something monumental, something that could either save her home or lead her down a path of even greater mystery. But for now, the only thing she truly understood was that the star song had brought her here for a reason, and she had to learn what it was. The journey, she realized, had only just begun. The journey, she realized, had only just begun. With trembling fingers, Alara carefully unrolled the ancient parchment. It crackled softly, like dry leaves underfoot, and a faint, sweet scent, like old moss and forgotten rain, wafted from its surface. The script etched upon it was unlike anything she had ever seen, flowing and intricate, each character a miniature work of art, curling like tendrils of smoke or the delicate branches of a winter tree. Her heart sank slightly. She couldn't read it. It was clearly the language of an age long past, a time when magic flowed as freely as the rivers. But as she looked, truly looked, at the symbols, a strange warmth bloomed in her chest. It was the same warmth that had accompanied the star song, a gentle, knowing presence. She felt a whisper in her mind, not in words, but in understanding. It was as if the star song itself was translating, not through language but through pure meaning, sifting the ancient wisdom directly into her thoughts. The parchment spoke of the world's heart, a great source of magic known as the lumen core. This colossal crystal, it explained, was not merely a stone, but the very wellspring of all light and life, the reservoir from which all enchantments, all dreams, and all growing things drew their vitality. For countless ages, the lumen core had pulsed with brilliance, showering the world with its magical essence. But, slowly, gradually, like a lamp running low on oil, its light had begun to dim. It described the encroaching gloom, the silent shadowing, a creeping chill that stole hues from blossoms and songs from birds, a force that sought to quiet the world and drain its vibrant magic. The parchment mourned the fading of the lumen core's song, a lament that echoed in Elara's own heart, for she knew the world was indeed growing colder, its magic retreating like the tide. Then her eyes, guided by the star song's gentle translation, focused on a particular passage, etched in bolder, more urgent script. It spoke of a prophecy, of a star-touched childing, one born under a peculiar alignment of celestial bodies, who would hear the core's silent cry and be drawn to its slumbering heart. This child, imbued with the echoes of the stars themselves, was destined to embark on a quest. They would need to gather 3 echoes of Lightwing, fragments of ancient magic scattered across the land, each resonating with a unique aspect of the world's soul. Only when these 3 echoes were brought together and sung into the lumen core could its full song be reawakened, its light restored, and the silent shadow driven back. The first of these echoes, the parchment revealed, was the whisper of the root. It was said to reside in the oldest living thing, a primeval force connected to the very foundations of the earth. Elara's breath hitched. A star-touched child. Could it be her? The star song that had led her through the whispering woods, that sang within her now, certainly felt like a celestial touch. Her heart swelled with a mixture of awe and trepidation. This wasn't just about finding a hidden crystal, it was about saving her entire world. She looked up from the parchment, her gaze drawn back to the immense silent lumen core. The air around it felt thick with ancient power, a silent hum that only she seemed to perceive. With new understanding, she approached the crystal once more, her earlier fear replaced by a profound sense of purpose. She reached out, her fingers hesitant, then firm, pressing against its cool, smooth surface. The moment her skin touched the crystal, a jolt, not of electricity but of pure, distilled memory, surged through her. It wasn't painful but overwhelming, like suddenly understanding 1,000 years of unspoken stories. She closed her eyes, and the cavern faded, replaced by a kaleidoscope of images flickering behind her eyelids. She saw the world as it once was, a vibrant tapestry of color and sound. Mighty rivers carved through emerald valleys, their waters shimmering with luminescence. Forests stretched endlessly, their trees reaching to kiss a sky ablaze with shifting auroras. Creatures of light and wonder, luminous fae and winged beasts, danced in the air and burrowed in the earth, their forms woven from pure magic. The lumen core, in this vision, was a sun within the earth, its light pouring forth, nurturing everything. She felt the joy, the boundless energy, the sheer magic of that ancient time. Then, the vision shifted. Subtle at first, like a faint shadow crossing the sun. The colors began to dim, the rivers lost some of their sparkle, the fae grew rarer, their lights softer. A creeping gray, like smoke, began to spread from the edges of the world, slowly, inexorably, devouring the vibrancy. She saw the core itself, its radiant pulse weakening, its glorious song diminishing to a whisper. It was not a violent assault, but a slow, weary surrender, a profound sadness. She felt its immense weariness, its longing for the light it once held. A deep ache settled in Elara's chest. This was the core's memory, its lament. It was showing her the truth of the world's decline, not with anger, but with a quiet, ancient sorrow. The star song within her, which had been a gentle hum, now pulsed with a stronger rhythm, resonating with the core's fading heartbeat. It was as if her own inner light was trying to comfort the ancient crystal, to tell it that hope was not lost. As her connection deepened, she felt a subtle shift, a gentle current of energy flowing from the core, through her hand, and into her very being. It was not a taking, but a sharing, a subtle awakening of something dormant within her. Her own senses sharpened, her perception of the cavern around her becoming clearer, richer. The air hummed with a new, faint vibrancy. When the vision faded, Elara opened her eyes. The cavern was the same, but not quite. The moonlight reflecting off the crystal seemed to shimmer with a fraction more warmth. She pulled her hand away, a lingering warmth in her palm. The core had communicated, not in words, but in feeling, in memory, in a gentle, urging pulse. It felt like a soft whisper in her mind, a direction more than a command, eyes westward, to the oldest route. Unde. The parchment in her other hand felt heavier, its purpose clearer. She rolled it carefully, tucking it into the pouch at her belt. She also picked up a small, smooth pebble from the cavern floor, not just any pebble, but one that seemed to glow with a faint internal luminescence, a tiny echo of the lumen core's own magic. It would be a comfort, a tiny lantern in the dark, and a reminder of her purpose. With a final reverent glance at the colossal crystal, Ilara turned towards the hidden path that had led her into the cavern. The air outside would be cold, the night deep, but the star song within her pulsed like a steady compass, and the lumen core's silent plea echoed in her heart. The journey out was swifter, her steps more confident. The path, once mysterious, now felt like a familiar friend. She emerged from the hidden opening, pushing aside a curtain of thick, dew-laden moss, and found herself back in the heart of the whispering woods. The night was still profound, but a faint, silvery blush was just beginning to touch the eastern horizon, promising the dawn. The stars, however, seemed to burn with an unusual intensity, especially the cluster that had guided her here, now shimmering directly above. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth, pine needles, and something else, something wild and sweet, like night-blooming jasmine. The woods around her were ancient, their towering trunks draped in velvet moss and luminous lichens that glowed with a soft ethereal light. Strange, bell-shaped flowers, translucent and pearly, unfurled shyly in the shadows, their petals catching the faint starlight and holding it. Spiderwebs, spun with threads that gleamed like spun silver, hung between branches, bejeweled with dewdrops that sparkled like tiny diamonds. This was not merely a forest. It was a living, breathing tapestry of magic, even if some of its colors had faded. Ilara paused, taking a deep breath of the magical air. The star song hummed, a gentle tug in her chest, pulling her westward, deeper into the ancient woods. She began to walk, her soft leather boots making little sound on the mossy forest floor. The luminous pebble in her hand pulsed faintly, casting a soft, warm glow that danced on the tree trunks and illuminated her path, a tiny beacon of hope. As she delved deeper, the trees grew even grander, their branches intertwining to form a vast, living cathedral ceiling. The silence here was profound, broken only by the rustle of unseen creatures in the undergrowth, the distant hoot of an owl, and the gentle whisper of the wind through the leaves, a whisper that sounded almost like a sigh. Suddenly, a flash of iridescent blue caught her eye. Something darted through the air near a patch of glowing fungi. Ilara paused, her heart giving a little flutter of surprise and wonder. It was a moth, but unlike any she had ever seen. Its wings were the color of a midnight sky dusted with starlight, each scale shimmering with a faint internal luminescence. It spiraled gracefully around a cluster of glowing moss, its delicate antennae twitching before landing softly on a broad fern-like leaf. As Ilara watched, mesmerized, the moth's wings unfurled, revealing intricate patterns that pulsed with soft, shifting colors, blues, purples, and greens, like tiny, living nebulae. It seemed to be observing her with large, dark eyes, curious and unafraid. It was a creature born of the forest's magic, a gentle reminder of the beauty that still thrived, even as the world's light dimmed. A faint smile touched Ilara's lips. It was a small, comforting presence. She felt a kinship with the moth, another small being navigating the wonders and mysteries of the ancient woods. After a moment, the moth lifted gracefully into the air, circled her head once, its wings stirring the air with a faint musical hum, and then fluttered off, leading the way for a short distance before disappearing into the deeper shadows. The encounter filled Ilara with a renewed sense of purpose. The world was still full of magic, full of wonder, and it was worth fighting for. She continued her journey, following the star song's silent guidance, the luminescent pebble a steady companion in her hand. The terrain began to change. The ground sloped gently downward, and the air grew cooler, carrying the damp scent of ancient earth and decaying leaves. The trees here were different too, their trunks thicker, their branches more gnarled and twisted, as if they had weathered countless centuries. Their roots, immense and serpentine, snaked across the forest floor, creating natural pathways and hidden hollows. After what felt like hours of walking, though time seemed to lose its meaning in the depths of the enchanted forest, Elara began to feel a subtle shift in the air. A profound stillness settled, a sense of immense age and quiet power. The star song within her, which had been a gentle pull, now resonated with a stronger, more insistent hum, vibrating through her very bones. She pushed through a final curtain of hanging vines, thick with iridescent blooms, and gasped. Before her stood an impossibility. It was a tree, but like no tree she had ever imagined. It was gargantuan, easily the largest living thing she had ever seen, its trunk so wide that a dozen people holding hands couldn't encircle it. It seemed to reach not just for the sky but to pierce it, its uppermost branches lost in the swirling mists above, touching realms unknown. Its bark was a mosaic of deep greens, rich browns, and patches of silver-gray lichen that glowed with a soft pearlescent light. Deep furrows ran down its massive trunk, ancient scars that told stories of forgotten ages. Its roots, truly colossal, spread out from its base like the limbs of a sleeping giant, some thicker than Elara herself, delving deep into the earth. The very ground around it seemed to pulse with a slow, powerful heartbeat. The air here was thick with a scent of primordial forest, of damp earth and growing things, of life enduring through millennia. This was not merely an old tree, this was a monument, a living repository of the world's memory. The whisper of the root, Elara breathed, the words from the parchment echoing in her mind. There was no doubt, this was the oldest living thing, the source of the first echo of light. She approached cautiously, her heart thrumming with awe. The star song sang louder now, a joyous crescendo within her, harmonizing with the ancient tree's silent song. As she drew closer, she noticed something extraordinary. Embedded within the gnarled bark, almost swallowed by the slow growth of centuries, were tiny crystalline formations, like teardrops of amber and emerald, each glowing with a faint internal light. They pulsed gently, in time with the slow, deep rhythm she felt emanating from the tree itself. This was the tree's magic, its ancient wisdom made manifest. This was the whisper. Elara reached out, her hand trembling slightly as she touched the rough, ancient bark. It felt surprisingly warm, vibrant with a slow, powerful life force. She closed her eyes, willing herself to listen, to truly hear the whisper that the parchment spoke of. The star song within her pulsed, urging her to connect, to open herself. A wave of sensation washed over her. She felt the slow, steady draw of water through unseen roots, the patient reach of branches towards the sun, the quiet wisdom of countless seasons. She felt the memory of the earth itself, the shifting of continents, the birth and death of forests, the passage of ages. And beneath it all, a deep, abiding sadness, a longing for the time when the lumen core's song had been full and bright, when the trees had sung with a louder, clearer voice. The tree was telling her its story, not in words, but in the deep, resonant language of life itself. It was a story of endurance, of patience, and of a quiet hope for renewal. Elara pressed her forehead against the bark, letting the ancient wisdom wash over her, letting the tree's sorrow mingle with her own. She knew she had found the whisper of the root. The challenge now was how to gather it, how to carry its immense ancient magic with her, so that it might one day help reawaken the lumen core. The star song, now a vibrant chorus in her soul, seemed to be guiding her, preparing her for the next step, a revelation that still lay just beyond her grasp. The journey had indeed only just begun, and the wonders of this ancient world, and the tasks ahead, were only just beginning to unfold. Elara felt the pulse of the whisper deep in her bones, a low hum that resonated with the very fabric of her being. It wasn't a physical object to be grasped, she realized, but in essence, a living memory woven into the roots of this primeval forest. The emerald light, a shimmering veil around the ancient root, was not a light aimed from it, but the light of it, a manifestation of its profound wisdom and life force. The star song, which had been a chorus, now refined itself within her. It wasn't a voice in her ear, but a pure, unadulterated knowing that bloomed in her mind. You must not take from the root, but become a conduit for its song. And me, a conduit. That was the key. She needed to channel its magic, not merely collect it. As this understanding settled, a faint tremor ran through the ground. The moss-covered stones around the root seemed to sigh, and the ancient trees, their bark like wrinkled faces, leaned ever so slightly closer, as if holding their breath. The air grew thick, with an almost tangible anticipation, heavy with the scent of damp earth, ancient wood, and something else. Something sharp and vital, like ozone after a summer storm. Elara closed her eyes, letting the star song guide her. She knelt before the root, her hands hovering above the shimmering emerald light. The warmth radiating from it was not heat, but a deep, living comfort, like the sun on fertile soil. The star song urged her to open herself, to become a vessel not of containment, but of flow. She extended her hands, palms open, not to touch, but to receive. As her fingertips neared the emerald veil, the light seemed to ripple, inviting her in. A soft, almost imperceptible hum began to emanate from the root, a note so low and resonant it vibrated through the earth itself, up through her knees and into her heart. This was the whisper's true song, a melody older than time, a lullaby of creation and slow, patient growth. Guided by the star song, Elara began to breathe, slowly, deeply, synchronizing her breath with the ancient pulse of the root. Inhale, and she felt the cool, moist air fill her lungs, infused with the forest's light. Exhale, and she released any tension, any doubt, any fear. With each breath, she felt herself becoming more translucent, more open, less a separate entity, and more a part of the vast interconnected tapestry of the woods. The emerald light began to respond, not shrinking or receding but expanding, reaching out towards her. It wasn't aggressive, but gentle, inquisitive. Slender tendrils of the light, like living emerald mist, began to curl around her fingers, then her wrists, tracing delicate patterns up her forearms. It felt like cool water, then a tingling warmth, then a deep, resonant peace. As the light flowed over her, Elara felt a subtle shift within her own magical essence. Her innate connection to the world, to the threads of magic that wove through everything, grew sharper, clearer. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a hidden spectrum of light and sound. The star song intensified, a joyous crescendo in her soul, celebrating this communion. Then came the challenge. The light, having embraced her, began to swirl and coalesce, drawing inward, not into the root, but into itself, forming a small, intensely brilliant orb of pure emerald energy directly between her hands. It hovered there, pulsating with an ancient power that made the very air crackle. "No, receive its essence," the star song whispered, a clear, resonant chime in her mind. Not its entirety, for that would overwhelm, but its seed, a spark of its eternal flame. Elara understood. She was not to drain the root, but to be entrusted with a portion of its vital essence, a living ember of its immense power. This was the whisper of the root, concentrated into a tangible form, ready to be carried. But how? She had no vial, no enchanted pouch designed for such a thing. Her gaze fell to the ground beside her, where a single fallen leaf lay. It was a broad, sturdy leaf from one of the ancient trees, deep green, veined with intricate patterns that seemed to glow faintly in the emerald light. It was old, but perfectly preserved, as if time itself had paused its decay. "Leaf," the star song prompted. "Hell, Jane a vessel of the forest, nurtured by the root itself. Legend one." With gentle reverence, Elara reached for the leaf, careful not to disturb the hovering orb. As her fingers brushed its surface, the leaf seemed to hum in recognition, its veins briefly flaring with a soft, inner luminescence. It was more than just a leaf, it was a living fragment of the forest's enduring memory. She carefully cupped the leaf in her left palm, holding it steady. Then, guided by an instinct that felt ancient and profound, she slowly lowered her right hand, palm open, towards the emerald orb. As her fingers neared it, the orb did not resist. Instead, it seemed to sigh, a silent breath of pure magic, and began to slowly descend, settling perfectly into the hollow of the leaf. As it touched the leaf, an extraordinary transformation began. The emerald orb didn't simply rest there. It merged. The leaf's intricate veins, already luminescent, began to glow with an intense emerald light, drawing the essence of the orb deep into its structure. The leaf itself didn't change form but became infused, imbued with a vibrant, pulsating energy. It seemed to thicken, its surface shimmering with an iridescent sheen, its color deepening to a profound living emerald that pulsed with the whisper's ancient magic. It was no longer just a leaf. It was a living talisman, a heart of pure forest magic. A wave of profound exhaustion washed over Elara, yet it was accompanied by an exhilarating sense of accomplishment. She had done it. She had gathered the whisper of the root, not by force, but by attunement, by becoming a conduit. The ancient root before her, though still shimmering, seemed a touch less intense, as if it had willingly shared a precious part of itself. The star song, now a soft, comforting lullaby, settled into a steady hum in her heart. It was no longer guiding her towards how to gather, but where to go next. The direction was clear, a gentle pull towards the east, deeper into the heart of the ancient forest, towards what felt like an even greater mystery. Elara carefully closed her fingers around the transformed leaf, cradling it gently. Its surface was warm, alive, pulsing faintly against her skin. It felt like holding a fragment of the earth's very soul. She rose slowly, her legs a little unsteady, but her spirit soaring. The whispering woods had grown silent again, the ancient trees standing sentinel, their watchful presence a silent acknowledgement of her success. The air, though still rich with the scent of magic, felt lighter, less charged. She took a moment to look back at the ancient root, offering a silent thanks. It was still there, vibrant and profound, an eternal source. She had taken nothing that was not freely given, nothing that would diminish its life. She had merely been entrusted with a seed of its power, a living promise. With the whisper of the root now safely held, Elara knew her journey was truly beginning. The path ahead was veiled, but the star song was a constant shimmering compass in her soul, its gentle pull guiding her deeper into the heart of the old world. She turned eastward, as the star song directed, and began to walk. The forest floor, once a confusing tangle, now seemed to reveal a subtle path beneath her feet, a barely discernible trail woven by the passage of countless seasons, perhaps even ages. The trees, which had seemed so impenetrable, now felt like silent guardians, parting their boughs just enough to allow her passage. As she moved, the emerald leaf in her hand pulsed softly, its light a gentle beacon in the dappled shadows. It wasn't just a source of power, it was a companion, a living echo of the ancient forest. She felt a deep connection to it, a bond forged in the silent communion with the root. The path led her through groves of trees whose branches reached so high they seemed to touch the sky, their leaves forming a dense canopy that filtered the sunlight into ethereal shafts of gold and green. Strange luminous fungi dotted the mossy banks, glowing with soft, otherworldly light that painted the forest floor in shades of violet and azure. The air grew cooler here, imbued with the scent of damp earth and something sweet, like night-blooming jasmine. She walked for what felt like hours, the forest constantly shifting and revealing new wonders. She passed by a waterfall that sang with 1,000 tiny voices, its waters shimmering with iridescent hues, as they plunged into a crystal-clear pool. She saw creatures she had only read about in ancient texts, sprites with wings like dragonfly silk, flitting through the air, wise-eyed owls perched on branches, their gaze following her with serene curiosity, and once, a fleeting glimpse of a stag with antlers like polished silver, vanishing into the deep shadows before she could fully comprehend its majesty. The star song's pull grew stronger, leading her towards a subtle elevation in the terrain. The trees here were even older, their trunks gnarled and twisted into fantastic shapes, like ancient dancers frozen mid-movement. Their bark was thicker, patterned with runes that seemed to shift and reform as she watched, a living language etched by time itself. Finally she reached a clearing atop a gentle rise. And there, bathed in the soft, filtered light of the canopy, stood an anomaly. It was a single colossal tree, unlike any she had seen before. Its trunk was wider than a small house, its branches thicker than the mightiest oaks, stretching outwards as if to embrace the entire sky. But it was not merely its size that made it remarkable. Its bark was not brown or gray, but a deep iridescent indigo, shot through with veins of silver that pulsed with a faint internal light. Its leaves were not green, but a spectrum of deep blues and purples, shimmering like the surface of a distant galaxy. This was no ordinary tree. It radiated an energy distinct from the whisper of the root, yet complementary. It felt like knowledge, like memory, like an ancient library of the world's deepest secrets. As Elara approached, a feeling of reverence washed over her. The star song swelled within her, guiding her to the base of the indigo tree. There, nestled amongst its massive roots, was a small sheltered alcove. And within that alcove, bathed in the tree's soft internal luminescence, sat an ethereal figure. It was a woman, or perhaps something more ancient than human. Her form was translucent, shimmering like heat haze over a summer field, her skin the color of twilight, her hair a cascade of starlight. Her eyes, open and luminous, were the deep cosmic indigo of the tree itself, and they gazed at Elara with an expression of profound wisdom and ageless serenity. She wore robes woven from what looked like spun moonlight, and in her lap rested a book, its covers crafted from polished darkwood, bound with silver clasps that glowed faintly. The star song, in a final gentle crescendo, identified her. Tipa, of the lore. The voice of the canopy. Dein mon renans, ein now. One eye. And see. The ethereal woman offered a faint, knowing smile. Her lips didn't move, but her voice, clear and resonant as a bell chime, echoed directly in Elara's mind. Welcome, Elara of the Ember Heart. Te, Teson, Test Tinsai. You have walked far, and you have listened well to the whispers of the earth. Wonder and Hanan. Elara felt no fear, only awe. You knew I was coming? She asked, her voice a hushed whisper in the sacred space. When the stars sing your journey, child? And the roots remember. We have awaited one such as you, one who carries the lumen spark and seeks its reawakening. While the keeper's gaze drifted to the emerald leaf clutched in Elara's hand. Ah, whisper of the root. It is well that you have been entrusted with its living memory. It will be your shield and your guide in the shadowed paths ahead. And Nana and Danitane. Wonders so. Shadowed paths? Elara questioned, a prickle of apprehension touching her. I thought gathering the whisper was the hardest part. The keeper's smile softened, tinged with a gentle sadness. It was the first part, the foundation. The true trials lie not in understanding the world's magic, but in understanding yourself, and the forces that seek to bind the light. Her translucent hand, shimmering with starlight, lifted slightly, gesturing to the book in her lap. This is the Tome of Echoes, compiled from the memories of the great trees and the whispers of the ancient stones. It holds the lore of the lumen core, its true purpose, and the nature of the shadow that seeks to quell it. In one tale, Elara felt a thrill of discovery. This was what she truly needed, knowledge, the wisdom of the ages. Can you tell me more about the lumen core, how it fell silent? The keeper nodded slowly, her starlight hair shimmering. The lumen core is the heart of our world, the wellspring of all living magic, the very pulse of creation. For eons, it beats strong, its light nourishing every creature, every plant, every spirit. But an age ago, a great shadow fell upon the land, a creeping blight born of discord and forgetting. It was not a creature, nor a force, but an absence, a growing void of connection and empathy amongst the peoples of the world. As the bonds between beings frayed, so too did the lumen's light begin to dim. The shadow feeders, beings born of this discord, capitalized on the weakening light. They were not evil in the way a beast is evil, but creatures of pure hunger, craving the essence of light and warmth. They cannot create, only consume. As the lumen core weakened, they grew bolder, draining its power, until finally, it fell silent. Not extinguished, mind you, but merely sleeping, waiting for a heart pure enough, a will strong enough, to reawaken its song. And you believe I am that heart? Elara asked, a sense of immense responsibility settling upon her shoulders. Carry the spark, child. The star song chose you. The root entrusted you. You are a vessel of hope. The keeper paused, her luminous eyes seeming to pierce through Elara's very soul. But the path to the lumen core is fraught with peril. The shadow feeders still linger, drawn to any flicker of the lumen's potential. They will sense the whisper of the root within you, and they will seek to claim it, for it is the purest form of restorative magic. In Arn, Tanan Mondala, Ahe, Haska. Elara clutched the emerald leaf tighter. How do I protect it? How do I protect myself? The whisper itself is your protection, if wielded with clarity of intent. But you will need more. You will need the knowledge held within this tome. And you will need to find the other sparks of the lumen, scattered throughout the land, each guarded by ancient beings or hidden within forgotten places. Other sparks? Elara echoed. There's more than just the whisper of the root? Indeed. The lumen core is not a single point of light, but a tapestry woven from many threads. The whisper of the root is its grounding, its connection to life itself. But there are others. The ember of the sky, the tear of the deep, and the echo of the mountain. Each represents a fundamental aspect of the world's magic, and each must be gathered and brought together to reawaken the core. Canaan. A vastness opened before Elara. This wasn't just one task, but a grand quest, a pilgrimage across an entire world. How will I find them? The keeper gently closed the tome of echoes. Its silver clasps seemed to thrum with ancient power. This tome will guide you. But it does not simply give up its secrets. It asks questions. It presents riddles. It demands understanding. Its pages are locked to all but those who possess a true connection to the world's heart. She extended her translucent hand, offering the book to Elara. Take it. The first step on your new path begins with its wisdom. Claiming her. Elara reached out, her fingers trembling slightly as they brushed against the cool, smooth surface of the dark wood cover. And as her hand closed around the tome, a jolt of energy, cool and clear like spring water, flowed through her. The book shimmered, its silver clasps glowing brightly for a moment, then settling into a steady, soft luminescence. It felt surprisingly light in her hands, as if it had been waiting for her touch. Kit's pages will open for you when you are ready to receive its knowledge. The keeper's voice resonated. But heed this warning. The path to the ember of the sky lies through the whispering peaks, a realm of biting winds and treacherous heights, guarded by creatures of cunning and illusion. Do not trust what your eyes alone perceive there. The path to the tear of the deep leads to the sunken city of Eldoria, a place drowned by ancient sorrow, where the very currents seek to claim the unwary. And the echo of the mountain is hidden within the heart's tone labyrinth, a maze of living rock and shifting passages where time itself can bend. What an man! Elara listened, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Each name conjured images of epic grandeur and daunting danger. How will I know what to do? The star song within you, and the whisper of the root you carry, will be your truest guides, the keeper said, her indigo eyes holding Elara's gaze. The tome will provide the context, the history, the riddles. But your heart will provide the courage, the intuition, the empathy needed to overcome each challenge. Remember, the lumen core itself is a symbol of connection. To reawaken it, you must foster connection wherever you go, not just with the land, but with its beings. One. When? Cameos está here. The keeper's form seemed to shimmer more intensely, her starlight hair dissolving into faint motes of light that danced in the air. My purpose here is to wait, to remember, and to guide those who seek the light. You have received what you came for. Now, the journey is yours to walk. As her form grew more indistinct, blending with the shimmering indigo of the great tree, Elara felt a profound sense of solitude settle over her, yet it was not loneliness. The star song hummed brightly, the emerald leaf pulsed warmly, and the tome of echoes felt solid and reassuring in her grasp. She was not alone. She was connected to everything. The keeper's voice, now fainter, like a distant echo, was the last thing she heard. Seek the highest point, where the sky meets the earth, for the first spark. The ember awaits. Enon moninar. Now, tezai sedi. Then, with a final gentle shimmer, the keeper of the lore was gone, absorbed back into the cosmic indigo tree, leaving only the lingering scent of starlight and ancient wisdom. Elara stood alone in the clearing, the vast, ancient forest stretching out around her. She looked down at the tome of echoes in her hands. Its dark wood cover seemed to absorb the ambient light, yet its silver clasps glowed with an inviting internal fire. She tried to open it, but the clasps remained firm, unyielding. It seemed the keeper's words were true. It would only open when she was ready. She lifted her gaze to the canopy above, then higher, imagining the distant peaks where the ember of the sky awaited. The whispering peaks. A new challenge, a new direction. The star song's pull, though previously eastward, now shifted, pointing northeast, towards the faint, jagged outlines of distant mountains, barely visible through the dense tree cover. The journey had indeed only just begun. With the whisper of the root held safe in her hand, and the tome of echoes clutched to her chest, Elara took a deep breath, the crisp, magical air filling her lungs. Her heart, once filled with a solitary quest, now carried the weight of an entire world's hope. The path ahead was long, but she felt a burgeoning strength, a quiet determination that resonated with the ancient magic she now carried. The first spark had been found, the next destination revealed. It was time to walk. The tome of echoes pulsed gently in her grasp, its ancient pages shimmering with an inner light. As Elara's gaze fell upon them, the faint, shimmering script coalesced into a map, not of parchment and ink, but of starlight and flowing water. It depicted a winding path, through forests of emerald and mountains of amethyst, leading to a place marked by a swirling vortex of azure and silver. The Azure Falls of Eredor. Legends whispered of these falls, where the very breath of the sky met the song of the earth, creating a harmony that echoed through all realms. With a final fortifying breath, Elara stepped forward, the whisper of the root radiating a comforting warmth in her palm. Her journey began with a walk through the sunken glades of Eldoria, a place she now saw with new eyes. The gnarled trees, once merely old, now seemed to whisper tales of ages past, their roots intertwined like ancient memories. The air, heavy with the scent of damp earth and blooming night lilies, vibrated with a subtle hum, a resonance she hadn't noticed before acquiring the root. It was as if a veil had lifted, revealing the hidden language of the world. Days turned into a gentle procession of wonders. She navigated shimmering rivers guided by luminous fish, their scales like scattered moonbeams. She climbed moss-covered hills where ancient standing stones pulsed with soft rhythmic light, their purpose a forgotten secret the tome seemed to dimly recall. At night, beneath skies awash with nebulae of soft pastel hues, Elara would consult the tome. Its pages would ripple, showing her glimpses of the path ahead, often accompanied by faint musical notes or the rustling of unseen wings, clues to the magical essence of the Azure Falls. One evening, as she rested by a spring whose waters tasted of starlight and mint, a small shimmering creature, a luminous sprite, fluttered down to her. Its wings were like fragments of rainbow, and its eyes, tiny pinpricks of light, regarded her with curious wonder. It chirped a series of melodic notes, then settled on the whisper of the root, which glowed brighter in response. The luminous sprite seemed to draw energy from the root, and in return it pointed its tiny luminous antennae towards a faint glowing trail that stretched into the darkening forest. It was a path not visible to the ordinary eye, a path woven from pure starlight. Following the luminous sprite, Elara found herself ascending through a winding canyon, its walls studded with geodes that glittered like hidden constellations. The air grew cooler, carrying the distant musical roar of falling water. Higher and higher she climbed, the luminous sprite occasionally perching on her shoulder, its presence a warm, encouraging spark. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of climbing through shimmering mists and echoing passages, Elara emerged onto a vast open plateau. Before her, a breathtaking spectacle unfolded. The Azure Falls of Eredor. Not a single cascade, but a symphony of water, a dozen majestic waterfalls plummeting from impossible heights, their waters not clear, but a vibrant shifting azure, like liquid sky. They crashed into a vast, swirling lake below, sending up mists that caught the sunlight and painted the air with perpetual rainbows. The sound was not deafening, but a harmonious roar, a chorus of rushing water, wind, and something else. A deep, resonant hum that vibrated through her very bones. This, she realized, was the song of the current the tome had hinted at. The second spark. Unwind, in the center of the largest waterfall, where the water seemed to hang suspended for a moment before its descent, a shimmering ethereal sphere pulsed with an otherworldly light. It was the color of a clear summer sky, but imbued with a deep, ancient wisdom. It sang, not with words, but with pure melodic resonance that shifted and flowed, telling tales of the world's beginnings, of the slow erosion of mountains, and the endless dance of the tides. But how to reach it? The waterfall was immense, its power formidable. As Elara pondered, the Tome of Echoes opened to a new page, showing an image of an ancient instrument, a lyre carved from crystal, and a riddle. "Eto, hear the song, you must sing its truth. To touch the current you must be the flow." Elara looked at her hands, then at the whisper of the root. It glowed, and she understood. The root was not just a conduit for earth magic, but a key to harmony. She closed her eyes, listening to the symphony of the falls. She felt the vibrations in the air, the constant rhythmic pulse of the water, the gentle sigh of the wind through the surrounding peaks. She began to hum, a soft, tentative note that slowly gained strength, drawing on the quiet power of the root. As she hummed, she focused on the flow of the water, imagining herself as part of it, not resisting, but yielding. The whisper of the root pulsed in her hand, and a faint, shimmering pathway of light began to materialize across the churning water, leading directly to the ethereal sphere. It was not a solid path, but one woven from pure sound and intention, a bridge of harmony. Carefully, Elara stepped onto the shimmering path. Each step was like walking on air, yet utterly stable. Done. The roar of the falls softened, becoming a lullaby, a supportive chorus. As she neared the sphere, its light intensified, embracing her in a warm, gentle glow. She reached out, her fingers trembling slightly, and touched the radiant orb. A jolt, not of electricity but of pure flowing energy, coursed through her. The song of the current merged with the whisper of the root, and both resonated within her, a beautiful intertwined melody. The ethereal sphere dissolved into her hand, leaving behind a sensation of incredible lightness and clarity, as if she could hear the subtle music of every drop of water, every gust of wind. The world seemed to shimmer with a newfound vibrancy. With 2 sparks now within her, the Tome of Echoes flared, its pages turning rapidly until they settled on a final, stark image. It depicted a place of deep, primordial earth, a cavern of polished obsidian beneath a sky heavy with ancient stars. It was the obsidian hearth, whispered to be the very core of the world's enduring magic, where time moved differently, and the earth itself slept in ancient slumber. The riddle was simple, yet profound. Where shadows are born, and light finds its rest, the final spark awaits the true of heart. The journey to the obsidian hearth was unlike the others. It was a descent, a passage into the deep places of the world. Elara traversed ancient, overgrown paths that snaked through primeval forests, where trees stood so tall, their crowns were lost in perpetual twilight. She encountered creatures of the deep earth, gentle bioluminescent beetles that lit her way through subterranean tunnels, and wise, slow-moving golems of moss and stone who offered silent guidance with the tilt of their ancient heads. The whisper of the root now guided her with an almost instinctive pull, sensing the deeper earth magic. The song of the current flowed within her, allowing her to sense subtle tremors in the ground, the hidden pathways of underground rivers, and the breath of the earth itself. She learned to speak to the stones, not with words, but with empathy, understanding their ancient patience and quiet strength. Days blurred into weeks as she delved deeper. The air grew heavy with the scent of minerals and cool, damp earth. The light grew scarce, replaced by the soft glow of crystalline formations and the occasional flicker of luminous fungi. But Elara felt no fear. The magic within her, the 2 sparks, resonated with the deep places, making her feel connected, protected. Finally, after passing through a shimmering veil of amethyst dust, she arrived. The obsidian hearth. It was not a single chamber, but a vast, sprawling network of caverns, all carved from a seamless, gleaming obsidian. The walls reflected the sparse light from the entrance in 1,000 fractured images, creating an illusion of infinite depth and space. In the center of the largest cavern, suspended above a pool of still, mirror-like water, was the final spark. It was a pulsating orb of deep, resonant crimson, like a captured sunset, but with the quiet strength of mountains. It radiated warmth, a primal, comforting heat that seemed to hum with the very heartbeat of the world. This was the heart of the stone, the anchor, the foundation. Around the pool, ancient, Weathered figures of stone stood in a silent circle, their faces eroded by time, but their posture still conveying a sense of profound guardianship. As Elara approached, a low, rumbling voice, rich as the earth itself, echoed through the cavern, seeming to emanate from the very stone around her. "You have come, bearer of the root and the current. Many have sought this place, few have found it. Fewer still have been deemed worthy. The fading light, it hungers for balance. Do you understand what you seek? Do you understand the weight of its rekindling?" Elara stood before the heart of the stone, feeling the immense power of the cavern. "I seek to restore balance," she replied, her voice steady, though a tremor of awe ran through her. "I seek to bring light back to the world, not just a flicker, but a steady, nurturing glow. Light without foundation is fleeting. Flow without purpose is chaos. Growth without wisdom is wildfire," the voice rumbled. "The fading light is not merely a lack of illumination, but a disharmony, a severing of the world's three core truths. You carry two. Show us you comprehend their union, and the wisdom to wield the third." Elara looked at the whisper of the root in her hand, its green glow vibrant. She felt the song of the current flowing within her, a silver melody. She understood. The root was life, growth, connection to the earth. The current was change, adaptation, the flow of time and energy. And the heart of the stone? It was stability, endurance, the unyielding core that allowed all else to thrive. Together, they were the very essence of the world's enduring magic. She closed her eyes, focusing her intention. She imagined the vibrant green of the root, reaching deep into the earth, drawing up strength and life. She imagined the shimmering silver of the current, flowing, adapting, carrying the whispers of the wind and the tides. And then she imagined the deep, resonant crimson of the heart of the stone, a steady, unwavering pulse, holding everything together, giving it form and purpose. She lifted her hands, palms open, feeling the two sparks within her resonate. The whisper of the root glowed brighter, and the air filled with the scent of fresh earth and blooming flowers. The song of the current hummed a magnificent, uplifting melody, and shimmering motes of light danced around her. Then slowly, with a quiet determination that came from deep within her burgeoning strength, she reached out towards the heart of the stone. As her fingers brushed its surface, the crimson orb pulsed with overwhelming power. It didn't merge as the others had, but rather, it awakened. A wave of pure foundational energy washed over her, grounding her, connecting her to the very core of the planet. The three sparks, the green of the root, the silver of the current, and the crimson of the stone, didn't just merge within her. They formed a magnificent swirling vortex of color and light around her, radiating outwards. The cavern of obsidian, once dark and reflective, now pulsed with a soft ethereal light. The ancient stone figures around the pool seemed to stir, their eroded faces catching the glow, as if a long-held breath was finally released. The voice, richer and clearer now, spoke again, its tone filled with ancient satisfaction. "The truths are united, the balance is restored, the fading light shall fade no more." As the last word resonated, the combined energy within Elara surged. It didn't stay contained within the cavern, but burst forth, a magnificent wave of vibrant, life-giving light that streamed upwards through the earth, through the forests, through the mountains, out into the world. Above ground, where the fading light had cast its subtle pall, a spectacular transformation began. Colors, once muted, now deepened and brightened, becoming intensely vivid. The air, once still with a quiet melancholy, now vibrated with a joyful hum. Flowers bloomed in an instant, their petals unfurling in a silent, breathtaking dance. Rivers sparkled with renewed vitality, and the wind sang a song of pure delight. The stars, which had grown dim, now glittered with an unparalleled brilliance, as if winking in joyful acknowledgement. Magic, which had been slowly receding, now flowed freely again, a vibrant, life-giving current that coursed through every living thing, every stone, every drop of water. The world breathed a collective sigh of relief, a profound sense of peace settling over all realms. Elara stood in the obsidian hearth, bathed in the soft receding glow of the rekindled light. She felt utterly exhausted, yet profoundly whole. The whisper of the root, the song of the current, and the heart of the stone now rested within her, not as separate entities, but as an integrated part of her being, a quiet, humming power that resonated with the revitalized world. She was no longer just Elara, the solitary seeker. She was the vessel, the bridge, the one who had listened to the world's quiet plea and brought its light back. The tome of echoes, its purpose fulfilled, gently closed its pages, its inner light dimming to a soft, contented glow. It had done its work. Elara's journey back was filled with a sense of wonder and gratitude. The world she walked through was no longer fading, but thriving. The luminous brights danced in the air with renewed vigor, the ancient trees rustled with deeper wisdom, and the very air hummed with a joyful, magical melody. She saw the faces of the people she encountered along the way, their eyes brighter, their smiles wider, their steps lighter. They didn't know how the light had returned, but they felt its warmth, its promise, its renewed hope. When Elara finally returned to her quiet village, the world seemed to welcome her with open arms. The garden she had once tended with such care now flourished with an impossible vibrancy, its flowers bursting with colors she had never dreamed of. The elderly wise woman whose tale had set Elara on her path met her with a knowing smile, her eyes sparkling with a youthful light. "You did it, child," the wise woman whispered, her voice filled with gentle pride. "You listened to the whispers, you embraced the flow, and you found the heart. The world sings your name, though it knows it not." Elara didn't seek fame or glory. She simply smiled, a quiet, deep contentment in her heart. She had walked the long path, faced the quiet trials, and reunited the world with its own magic. The fading light was gone, replaced by a radiant, enduring glow that would warm the world for ages to come. As the sun set, painting the sky with hues of gold and rose, Elara sat by her window, the gentle hum of the world's renewed magic, a soft lullaby in her soul. The adventures were over, the quest complete. But the magic, the connection, the quiet strength she had found within herself, that was just beginning to bloom, a perpetual garden in her heart. And as the first star twinkled in the vibrant night sky, Elara closed her eyes, a peaceful smile on her face, knowing that the world was safe, vibrant, and filled with wonder, ready for countless magical stories yet to unfold.